very special guest at the Association of Internet Researchers conference in Brisbane. Could you introduce yourself, please?
Hello, my name's Emily van der Nagel and I am a lecturer in social media at Monash University in Melbourne, Australia.
Yes! I feel like in Australia there are a lot more jobs that are like lecture in social media or digital culture.
This is a new one.
Okay.
Monash hasn't had a lecturer in social media before. I'm the first one.
Cool.
Yeah.
I want to be a lecturer in social media.
You will be one day, Zoe.
There are not many in the UK. There's no one is a lecturer in social media.
Huh.
It's just not a thing.
That's my actual title.
Yeah, that's amazing.
On my business cards.
Yeah.
That's a lie, I don't have business cards. But if I did...
Do you?
Yeah.
A PhD, they really, PhD at LSE.
Yeah.
Even the PhD students, they like send us out an email being like, do you want business cards?
That's nice.
They're not very useful.
But it makes you feel included.
It does.
Yeah.
I had to fight though to add my Twitter and email onto it.
Oh,
which is
really?
Stupid. Yeah.
Everyone should have their Twitter on their business
I know.
cards.
We're all
For
about
a
the tweets.
Yeah, we love the tweets.
Yeah.
I said to Zoe I was a little bit late today because I was busy tweeting.
Well, this is an event where like everyone is, well, not everyone, but a lot of people are going mad on the Twitter.
Absolutely.
The Twitters. So I want to hear about your research, but before we talk about your research, I would like to hear about your job because
great.
Because it's intriguing, isn't it? When did you start that post?
I began in January. So,
okay, yeah, you have
it's
different years in
that we
start in
do.
September.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm reasonably new there, I guess. I finished my PhD in 2017, and then I did the sessional thing for a little while after, and the multiple job applications. I was pretty keen to see if I could get a job in, social media and academia, but also but also hopefully in the same city that I lived in.
Yeah. Where were you living?
Melbourne. So
Right.
so that's
Solid.
worked out.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is what I've been saying to people. I'm like really trying to get a job in London because that's like where I'm based. Like I'm quite like settled there. So, like really struggling with that. But everyone's like, oh, you can't choose where you're going to live.
I know.
But that's so silly. It's like,
But
well,
I have a
what
whole
other
life
jobs?
in Melbourne.
Exactly.
It's really important
And
to
your
me.
life is, not just about work.
Yeah.
in my
Well,
opinion.
look, it turns out I was in the right place at the right time.
Good.
And Monash was hiring a small crop of new people to study digital things.
Amazing.
And my aspect of that is studying social media because that's what my PhD thesis was about.
What was your PhD thesis about? More than being about social media?
A lot of it is about social media identity, and I got really interested in names, usernames, anonymity, pseudonymity. How does that all work? I really wanted to start with this kind of assumption people have that if you're anonymous online, you must be up to no good.
Right.
I wanted to actually get at what else is going on.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So I feel like back in the day, like we say back in the day in internet studies, it's like
We mean
the
like
90s.
last decade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People talked a lot about
Yeah.
the utopian potential of being divorced from gender, race and class, and that was part of the anonymity conversation, I
Absolutely.
think, at that time.
That's it's still something that figures in, but I think especially when I was doing the PhD, and because I think Facebook was really emerging as a real name platform that people were getting very familiar with, all of a sudden anonymity seemed to be suspicious in some ways. So I really wanted to find out what's going on, like why are people anonymous? In a lot of cases, they're pseudonymous for a start. I like to try to unpick those terms. They don't have no name. Actually, they have a pseudonym.
Yeah.
Not a name that's false, but a name that doesn't match with their sort of legal identity documents. And most of the time, people are just trying to compartmentalize their conversations.
Yeah.
I think it shows a familiarity with the internet. If we get used to this idea that the internet is something persistent and public, we need ways to carve out spaces of intimacy.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Did you carry on with that work after your PhD?
It's been a real thread. Yeah. I think at the heart of everything I do is social media identities.
Yeah.
But now I study the way that people understand algorithms on social media, or the way people remember internet platforms, which is what I'm talking about at air.
Right, yeah. So tell us more about that. Have you already presented?
I have,
Oh,
yesterday.
damn.
I know. I was at a very packed session where there were about 4 other things that I actually really wanted to go to at the same time.
Yeah.
This is a big conference.
It's a real problem here. It's like it's unusual, I think,
Yeah.
because I've been to a number of conferences where there's like nothing I'm interested in for like a couple of sessions in a row.
That
But
doesn't
here
happen
it's,
here.
It's like, yeah, every
Here
session.
it's agonizing to choose.
It really is. But tell us more about what you were
I will.
presenting on.
Thank you. My air paper is called Sunsets and Memories, How We Bury and Mourn Dead Platforms.
Cool.
So I began looking at the sorts of posts that platform CEOs make when they have to shut a platform down. They're
so
really
interesting.
they're really interesting because they're quite formulaic. You know, they announce the closure, they give a reason. They're often very emotional. There's a lot of feeling in the post that has to do with the regret and the sadness of shutting something down. They also nearly always call their platform a community.
Yeah.
And I find that fascinating.
Yeah.
So kind of based on that, I asked my Twitter followers if they could, in a survey form, tell me about some of their internet memories to kind of see, you know, do people have like such deeply held emotional, strong memories of platforms? So I just had really wonderful responses.
Which platforms did you use as sort of examples?
I gave a few examples of ones that had shut down. So like a lot of, you know, Google iterations of social media like Orchid and Google Plus and what have you.
MySpace, I feel like is such a big one. Vine. Were there any Vine people talking to you?
Actually, I had more people say that they sort of they like discovered Vine after it had shut down because it lives on in YouTube compilations.
Yes, it does.
And
it does.
which is a really interesting form of internet archiving in a way.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Yeah, Vine is one that I've had because I'm studying YouTube mostly, but also the online video industry more broadly. Vine is one that people talk about a lot in terms of like it had a really distinct community and kind of aesthetic and sensibility, I suppose. There was a certain type of humour that you don't find on other video platforms, and people are really sad about it closing.
People, they were sad about it. I have to say, in the responses I got to my own survey, people love LiveJournal the most.
Yeah.
So for the
Is
uninitiated, it's if it does exist, definitely not in the same way.
It was a very big, I remember when it was big.
Basically, if you haven't heard of LiveJournal, it was a kind of early 2000s-ish platform that was basically a diary, and people would post quite often really, you know, like long and involved and very intimate narratives about their own lives.
Yeah.
And because there was such, I guess, resonance, like emotional resonance in those long text-based diary-style posts, a lot of people felt very attached to LiveJournal. I had people say they deeply miss the LiveJournal
and there
part
isn't
of their life.
really something doing that, filling that gap. Like obviously there are lots of blogs, individuals blogs who would do that, but maybe Tumblr
To some extent.
does that, but and obviously like YouTube is kind of a video version of that to a set, but it's very different. Like
It is very different.
It's a lot more. I don't know. It's all performative, but like I think making a YouTube video, you are literally speaking to someone, whereas LiveJournal, in my mind, was more of a like talking to yourself, and then people might read it. Although I don't know. It was huge, so I'm sure there were
Perhaps
lots of...
the imagined audience was quite different.
Yeah, I think so.
But it did seem to engender a lot of feeling and a lot of emotional attachment, I guess. The thing that I found really surprising, and I actually really love in my survey results, was when I asked people, what are your memories of the early internet? Like maybe what are your first or formative memories? More than one person mentioned sound. So
Really?
Yeah.
What, like do?
A little bit. So a couple of people actually would tell me about the sound of dial-up. You know, like that screechy.
Yeah.
You know, like
God,
metallic
terrible.
sort of connection.
Yeah, I was going to
when
do
you
an
dial
impression
up
and
your
then I decided
computer.
not to.
Do you know what's funny? Somebody actually tried to type out the noise, like spell it out in letters for me, like, you know, that near, like, and they're like, you know, putting there are lots of W's and G's and H's, I think, in a row.
I love that.
And there was also the sound of a new message, the uh-oh.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it was just a very persistent memory for a lot of people.
That's intriguing. Have you checked? There's 2 or 3 like sound people here at
Yeah.
Air, who, I mean, I don't know if it has any crossover because it's like an area that I'm not familiar with theoretically, but they might be intrigued by that.
I was intrigued, and I don't even study sound. I just thought, like, yeah, what can we say about the way people remember platforms? Because I think platforms describe themselves in a very specific kind of language.
Yeah.
So how does that translate to, I guess, how people actually come to them?
I think that's really fascinating because, I mean, in my own research, the reason I study YouTube is because I love YouTube, and it's like been so formative for me since about 2007, like a very big part of my identity, I suppose, or my understanding of online community. And a lot of the people who I interview who were around in the early days, like that's why they're still on YouTube, even if it at times they don't like things about the platform or the company, I should say. It's where their community is, and that, like, there is, you know, they'll talk about, because part of it is to do with like cross-platform labour, so they're all across lots of different platforms, but a number of people have said, of course I'm on Instagram, but I don't like Instagram.
But I don't love it.
I don't like Instagram, I just use it because I have to. Like, for my business, you know, for my job. But what they understand the culture to be on Instagram is not what they kind of feel strongly about. Or they, I think there's a snobbery there, to be fair.
Well, sure, but
but
there's also even sort of micro-generation gaps. Like, I think younger people don't love Facebook, the experience, or, as you say, the company. But they still consider it absolutely essential for connecting. I had a student once who described Facebook as like email, in that it was as boring yet as ubiquitous as email.
That's interesting.
Like it's a utility.
But there's lots of people who don't use Facebook now.
Sure,
Younger.
I mean, but you know, I guess that was their perception.
Still,
it was very important to be on Facebook.
Sure.
But were they having fun? People, I think, sometimes they're
really
having
funny.
more fun.
As boring as email.
Like on YouTube or Instagram or maybe TikTok.
I bet that was your paper went down great here because at Air, like, I feel like a lot of people love talking about the history of the internet, and it's like a lot of people have been studying it for a very long time. You know, the people who have been around since the beginning of internet studies, like, if that's what you'd call it, or studies of the internet.
And I think it's almost like a common, maybe like an academic punchline. See this thing? There's a longer history that you need to consider. That's what you'll hear, and it's true. It's absolutely true.
It is true.
There's, I think, a tendency sometimes to consider practices that are digital as completely new, like they've come out of nowhere. But it doesn't take long to understand with LiveJournal, this is a digital object that quite clearly draws on the culture of diaries as a personal, reflective,
100%,
and sort of a, you know, family documenting tool.
Well, where are we at? 14 minutes. Maybe that's perfect. I mean, there's so many other things I could ask you about, but I'm just aware that we don't want to miss the next session.
It's a really busy conference.
It is a really busy
Full of great
conference.
things.
I'm really happy that we found a gap, and thank you very much for being on my channel.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me, Zoe.
I will link Emily below in the doobly-doo with the things. I don't know what things. Maybe papers. Oh, well,
Maybe
the audience might not have
Twitter.
access. Definitely Twitter. You're quite prolific on. You have a big following on Twitter.
I like to tweet.
Yeah.
I love Twitter. That's why I'm on it. I enjoy it. That's why I have fun.
That's nice, because I feel like a lot of people say that Twitter is like not a nice place, and I think it's quite cool.
It's not always nice, but overall,
It's
still
massive
enjoy
for
it.
academics, Twitter. It's
Yeah.
like, I did not get into it until I started my PhD.
Yeah.
And then I was like, this
Like,
is where the people are. Like, this
here's
is where I can talk to people.
Yeah, and I love that, I can touch base with people
Yeah.
like Zoe, who don't live in the same country as me.
Yeah, like
I'm in
there's
Australia.
so many people on Twitter that I
Yeah.
met on Twitter who are at this conference
Yeah.
I've never met before. I've
Yeah.
probably met in person like 3 people before I came here. And now,
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. And now there's like 100 people that I
Exactly.
have, touched base with that I was. Anyway,
Building community.
community. What does it mean? I don't know.
I don't know, but I feel like I really, really like a lot of people that I meet on Twitter.
Yeah, me too.
There is, as Howard Rheingold would say, sufficient human feeling.
Oh, what
In
a
that
lovely way to
platform.
conclude the video. Academic moment.
Thank you very much, Zoe.
Okay, yes, thank you. Goodbye. Goodbye. We always do this at the end of videos and then I'm like, this is like CBeebies. Do you have like kids TV?
Yeah.
Where people
Oh,
wave?
yeah. Goodbye.
Yeah. Okay.